graduated with the third best GPA in my graduating class, and after applying to universities, I was accepted to 5 universities with over $250,000 worth of scholarship. Here is me at my graduation with my proud family. Tatiana's right there. Here's me with my parents when I gave a speech about what it took to get into US colleges. So as I'm doing to you guys today, I did it to everybody else at my high school. So currently, I am attending Seton Hall University in New Jersey in USA. I am studying sport management and marketing. I thought that major was right for me because, as I told you guys, I'm very passionate about sports and I like managing. You know, I've been the varsity captain for a couple teams, and combined the two, sport management seemed like the right thing for me. I am the captain of the Seton Hall Club team, as the picture shows, GPA, and next week I'm going to Ireland for an internship at a sports facilities, so I'm very excited about that. Here is my soccer team. I'm in the middle right there. So, most importantly, there's 3 things I want to, if you guys don't pay attention at all to this presentation, I hope for the next 10 minutes you pay attention, because this is what's important. Previous part, it just doesn't matter. This is what's important. First of all, you want to learn from others. What that means is that, as I mentioned before, what I did in my past, you want to observe what other people are doing right. And that is applicable to anything in life. Whether it's in the classroom, you're noticing this person is always getting a better grade. And instead of gossiping about them, oh, you know, that person is a nerd, or oh, that person has no life. No, they're doing something right that you're not. So maybe you should not judge them, step back, and ask yourself, why are they getting a better grade, and why am I not? They're doing it right. They're doing it more right than you are, at least. You want to learn from them. If it's in the sports field, I know a lot of you guys like to play sports. Why is that person so much better? Is he training more? Is he staying after practices more? Is he talking to the coach? It's applicable to anything. Always learn from others. Ask them questions. So approach the person. Don't gossip about them. Go up to them and ask, why is it that you keep getting good grades? They may tell you or they may not tell you, but at least you tried. You also want to ask questions to your professors, to your teachers, to your parents. All of these groups of people are, what I like to call them, knowledge bubbles. They have so much knowledge, so much information. You may have so many questions, but if you don't speak up, they're not going to be answered. You know, you got all these great teachers behind you, all your parents. They know so much more to answer your questions. You guys just got to speak up and ask the right kind of questions. And as I said before, try to understand why they're successful at something. Don't gossip, understand. So my personal example is a guy called Mateusz Brella. I am very good friends with him. He is a Polish friend of mine at my university. He's the captain of the varsity team at my university. And he seems to be doing everything right every single day. You know, I admire him so much because he's got a lot on his plate. Next month, he's going to sign a professional contract to a soccer team in Sweden. He's got a 3.9 GPA and a 4.0. You know, he's a very caring guy. Everybody loves him. And I'm always trying to understand, why is he so successful at everything he does? Instead of judging him, instead of talking about it behind his back, I approach him. I want to be his friend because he's the kind of person that would move me forward. You want to always hang out with the kind of people that will make you better and not worse. That's very important. Second thing, be proactive and not reactive. Does anybody know what that means? Anybody? Okay, I'll explain it to you guys. So I'm going to explain it in terms of what you guys are doing right now in school. Being proactive means you tackle your assignments as they are assigned. So let's say Tatiana gives you a paper to write that's due in 1 week, okay? I'm guessing most of you, as I did for a very long time, would do it the night before it's due. Why? Because you're lazy, because you want to put it off. But the truth is that you're going to have to do it anyway. So why are you giving yourself more stress? It's called, stress is self-imposed, meaning that you're putting it on yourself. If you just do it before, you're gonna free up so much more time to doing things you actually enjoy doing, like playing sports, or reading, or hanging out with your friends. Study ahead of time. I know this seems like a crazy idea that nobody does it, but if there's a test coming up in a week, like I said, why would you wait to study 6 days, and 6 days, the night before it's due, the night before you take the exam? It doesn't make sense. And it's something you gotta practice and practice and practice. It's gonna take a very long time for you to master that, but if you at least try to do it every exam, every paper it's due, you just try to do it a little bit earlier every time. You're gonna start noticing how much more time you have and how much less worry and stress you're gonna have in the long term. Ask meaningful questions in class. If you don't understand something, don't just sit there and wonder, what is the teacher talking about? You're not gonna learn, and they're not gonna know if you're understanding it or not. Teachers love when you put your hand up and you ask them a question, I don't understand this. They'll be more than glad to answer the question, and they'll understand, what things maybe the whole class doesn't understand it. And if you ask the question, they'll be more aware of that. And always, always, always do your homework. It's not even a question of whether you do it or not. I'm guessing that everyone in this room, including myself, at one point or another didn't do their homework. And that's normal, but at some point, I would hope that everyone in this room would learn the importance of homework. You learn things in class and you might not understand it very well, and then the exam comes and you don't do so well, and you ask yourself why. It's because you didn't do your homework. The homework is a very good way to give you guys good practice experience on the stuff you learn in class. So always do your homework. That's the easiest thing you can do to do well in school. Do your homework. Don't be lazy. So then all these 4 things, it saves you time for things you actually enjoy. For me, it's sports. They all might seem like very boring things, like people who are lame do them, like why would I do my homework, why would I study ahead of time? But it's people who do these things that are successful in everything else in life. The reason why I can play sports all the time and I've been successful in sports is because I did all these things which gave me time to do things I really enjoyed. So you gotta understand that there's a balance. You gotta do well in school, you gotta do well outside school, you gotta try to find that balance. And it's not easy. It took me a very long time to learn that. And thirdly, and most importantly, you gotta set goals. Show of hands, how many of us here are in the habit of always setting goals? Anybody? Hopefully we'll change that. Hopefully this will inspire you to set goals. So what I mean by setting goals. So all of you guys are at the age grade of 8th grade to 10th grade, I assume. At some point, I hope that all of you would want to go to college and start thinking about the process. Hopefully you guys on that side that are a little older started thinking about college already and where you want to go. Maybe one of your goals is to get into college. Let's say get into college in the US. So that would be your long-term goal. However, to achieve that long-term goal, you got to break down the goal in smaller goals. So to get into a US college, I need a GPA of X amount, let's say 3.8 out of 4. To get that 3.8 out of 4, I need to get this grade in class. To get this grade in class, I need to do this in the exams. To get this grade in the exams, I gotta understand the content. To understand the content, I gotta study. So you pretty much said that. To get into a US college, for the next exam, you gotta study. That's the next thing you gotta do to get into the US college. It seems very confusing, but to start off with what you really wanna do, like you wanna get into college, or you wanna get this job, or whatever it is, start off big. And then break it down, as I said, and ask yourself, what should I do today to get me closer to my long-term goal? That is something I ask myself every day, multiple times a day. It's a thought that always comes in my head. My next big goal is to get into graduate school, which is the school level after undergrad, after college. And my next thing that I gotta do is I gotta do well on the GMAT test, which is the acceptance test I gotta take to get into the grad school. I need a good score for that. To get a good score, I gotta study. To study, I gotta actually sit down and study. So for the past 1 week, I'm in summer break, but I've been studying at least 2 hours a day because I know next year I gotta get into grad school, and the only way to do that is by studying. There's no other way around it. So it's gonna be a little repetitive because I just told you guys about this goal, but example of a good goal setting. This past semester was my spring semester in college, so it runs from January until May. And one of my major goals, I always have three main goals. I have an academic goal, so my GPA, I want to get a certain GPA. I have a fitness goal, so I'm always at the gym. I have this, maybe how many kilos I gain, how many times I go to the gym. And then I have another goal, which is more like job related. So I want to get an internship, I want to get a job. Always three goals. This is one of them. Get a 3.8 GPA. To get this goal, I gotta get this. I gotta get all A's in my class and only one B+. In order to get all A's and only one B+, I gotta get above 90 on every exam for every class. To get above 90 on every exam for every class, I gotta understand the material very well. And to understand the material very well, I gotta study 3 times for every exam. So if the exam is Friday, I'll study, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Thursday night. Just keep refreshing the content. And to understand the material very well, I gotta pay attention in class. So just step back and understand that. To get a 3.8 GPA, I gotta pay attention every class. So every day you gotta be reminded, if you wanna get this, you gotta do this. You want this, but you have to do this. So next time I have a class, I know I gotta pay attention to get that GPA. Right, so stepping back from the 3 tips, talk to you guys a little bit about applying to college and what counts. I don't know how much you guys know about what it takes to get into college, what they look at, or whether you've done some research already or not, but hopefully this will clarify a little bit on what you have to do. So your GPA matters a lot. Right from the beginning until you graduate. From grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, it all matters. So if you think you cruise by, relax now, it's okay, college is coming in the future, no, it's now. You gotta make sure that you have a good enough GPA to get where you wanna go. Secondly, teacher recommendations. This is something students don't realize is so important. Throughout all your years, your teachers are always, looking at you, seeing how much you care, seeing how much effort you put in, seeing your skills. And if you don't show your teachers the best side of you, they're not gonna have anything good to say about you when applications come in. So you wanna make sure you show your teachers the best side of you. Give them reasons to write very good teacher recommendations. So when they submit them, the universities are happy with them. And thirdly, I don't know if you guys know what the SATs are. The SATs is the testing requirement to get into a US university. It's very expensive, it's a 3.5-hour exam, and it's very competitive, so everybody does it, and people study many, many months for this, and it's very difficult. So we're gonna familiarize yourself with that, see what the requirements are. Extracurricular activities, as I said before. It's no longer good enough to get very good grades. There's a lot of people out there with perfect GPAs. They get perfect grades in the class, and that's great. That shows you're knowledgeable, that shows you're committed to your studies, but a lot of times it's not enough. You want to do activities that would make you different. Like, why would the university pick that person over this person if they have the same GPA? The experiences you have, the activities you do. And lastly, the essays you write. That's just something that, as the time comes, maybe it's a couple years away for you guys, you're going to have to write essays. And they're also a very important part of your application. So then, applying to college, the process. For you guys in the corner here, it seems like it's super far away and it's all the way out there in the future. But for you guys out there, it's something that hopefully you began thinking about and talking to your family about, talking to teachers about, friends, seeing where your interests are. First step is ask yourself, what would I like to study in? Do sports interest me? Talking to people, does that interest me? Writing, does that interest me? Reading, what is this that you like to do? Try to find the majors that kind of correlate with what you like to do. Talk to your teachers, they are a very good resource. Talk to your parents, see what they think. Second step is research universities. Make a list. Where do you want to study? The world is a very, very big place, and there's so many different places to study at. But you gotta have the grades, you gotta be committed, you gotta have a plan. So research the universities, perhaps even make a list already. You guys in the corner, maybe you make a list of the universities that seem attractive to you guys. And then, so a little more to the future, but you gotta learn deadlines. So when is it that actually applies to college? Is it at the end of grade 11? Is it at the end of grade 10? When do they require the submission of the paperwork to be in? You gotta be aware of that. You gotta always stay on top of your game. And you write them down. And then you gotta learn the application process exactly to the university you wanna attend. So at my university, all those 5 things that I wrote down, I needed to do that. I needed to interview them through Skype. I needed to send out an extra letter of recommendation. All of these things are very specific to the university I chose. So you gotta learn the requirements for the university you pick. And lastly, you gotta make a plan. This seems like, again, very far into the future, but the more ahead of the game you are, the more proactive you are instead of reactive, the easier the process is gonna be, and the higher the chances that you're gonna go to a place where you actually wanna go. So then that's all for me today. Just want to remind you guys that it's not all about sports and it's not all about school. It's about being successful in everything and managing your time very well. Always put school first, ahead of sports, ahead of hanging out, ahead of anything. You're always going to have to prioritize. There's going to come times when a big exam is coming up and your friends are asking you to go out with them. And your team has a game, but you got to learn that you can hang out with them any other day of the week. You can only take that exam one time. And if you don't take that exam well, you can't take it again. So you gotta learn to say no when more than one thing comes up at the same time. So hopefully you guys learned something today that you can take with you. If there's any questions, feel free to put your hand up. If not, I'm gonna be at the back and you guys can ask me questions in person. Thank you.